Gabriel Pizza is a major Canadian food service company with its corporate headquarters located in Ottawa. It supports numerous charities, employs hundreds of citizens, and sponsors some of Ottawa's top sports and entertainment events. The brand is instantly recognizable as a quality purveyor of fine foods and impeccable client satisfaction. But it wasn't always this way. Gabriel Pizza started out as a small takeout pizza location in a once barren land we now call Orleans. It was through hard work, ingenuity, perseverance, and a little bit of luck that it has become what it is today. But let's go back to the middle of last century, to a little town in Lebanon known as Aita al-Fukar. In the shadow of Mount Sinin, nestled in the Bekaa Valley, Lebanon, lies the ancient village of Aita al-Fukar. The village is bordered on three sides by mountains and fertile hillsides. For hundreds of years, the villagers have taken advantage of these wonderful growing conditions to raise grapes, olives, apples, figs, and other succulents destined for market. Religious tolerance meant a friendly and peaceful existence for the citizens. Life was good for the residents of Aita. In this village, there lived a young man named George Hanna and his soon-to-be wife, Shafika Scaff. The two met through family and soon became involved in a whirlwind romance. Soon after, they were married, and life was about to change dramatically. As it was, George operated a small cart on the street corner where they lived, selling cigarettes, fruit, and other sundry items. But with an impending family on the way, he knew he had to make a change. 1951 was a big year everywhere. The first Pan American Games opened in Buenos Aires, King Abdullah I of Jordan is assassinated, and Ottawa named Charlotte Whitten as mayor, the first time a woman was to lead a major city. 1951 was also the year that saw the birth of future Gabriel's founder, Michael Hanna. But George and Shafika were not quite done with bringing more boys into the world, and they quickly added more to the family. Jean in 52, then George in 56, Nick in 60, Elias in 63, and finally Joe in 64. At the time that Mike was born, George, still operating the street cart, saw an opportunity to take on a small storefront operation, and he seized it. George and Shafika ran the store on their own from early morning to late night. In no time, it became very popular. George's enterprising nature revealed itself when he acquired the only telephone in town, and people lined up, for a price, to use it.
And my grandfather was also a hardworking man, and he was sort of, if you want to call it, like sort of the gatekeeper of the store. And if you took anything or you did anything, he was there. He was on you.
Shafika proved to be a popular figure in the neighborhood. She was charming, friendly, and well-informed. Together, George and Shafika were a natural team. Mike, being the firstborn son, was pressed into service working at the store from open to close. He watched and learned the craft. How to treat customers, how to care about your family and community, how to provide leadership and guidance, and most of all, to do the right thing. And each of Mike's brothers, in turn, found themselves working at the store, learning the same lessons of integrity, hard work, and dedication. But in the late 1960s, the winds of civil war had started whipping up in Lebanon, threatening the peaceful life the Hanna family had forged in Aita. Mike, now 16, had a hard decision to make: stay in Aita and suffer through the war and potential tragedy, or go to start again in a safer environment. Mike chose to move on and attempt to forge a new life for himself and his family. Leaving his home was hard for 16-year-old Mike. He had to leave family and friends behind for what he hoped would be a peaceful start to a new life, away from the civil unrest that was growing in his homeland. Choosing a neutral country like Canada was the natural choice for Mike. The political landscape was inviting, the climate was something he was used to, and it seemed like a land of untapped potential for someone with his work ethic. He chose the capital of Canada as a natural starting point. He had relatives there, so it must be a good city. Mike arrived with next to nothing and stayed with his aunt and uncle to start. He promptly enrolled in university and found a job at the Skyline Hotel as a busboy, and he was set to start making his mark. Never taking anything for granted, Mike always worked hard and stayed until the job was done. He ended up winning Best Employee Award at the Skyline numerous times and ultimately was awarded a gold ring for his meritorious service. During this 5-year period, Mike revisited his village in Lebanon a few times and eventually got to know a young woman by the name of Maliki. The two fell in love, and in 1973, Mike visits Lebanon again, but this time to make Maliki his wife. It is a joyous occasion for all the family, and they celebrate Mike, Maliki, and their new life together. She moves back to Canada with Mike. He resumes his career with the Skyline, moving from position to position, learning the details of every job. He continues to improve and learn on every shift. By 1974, the civil war in Lebanon had reached a point where Mike can no longer let his family be exposed to the violence. So, over the next year, he and his parents arranged to get their papers in order and bring the entire family over to Canada.
At that time, I was only 11 years old, so coming to a different country was totally different, especially not knowing the language. We only spoke Arabic, and to come here to a totally different language, like an English language, it was hard in the beginning. It was really hard. But we went to school, we learned, and we came a long way.
1975 was a banner year for the Hannas, seeing the family being reunited, and a new baby for Mike and Maliki as they welcomed their first child, a son, and future Gabriel Pizza president George Hanna Jr. It's 1977, and Mike is back at the Skyline, working long hours to keep up. He feels a personal responsibility for the entire family and yet does not want to work for someone else anymore. As luck would have it, he finds a small pizza shop on St. Joseph Boulevard in Ottawa, a lonely, tree-lined place that will eventually become a city we now call Orleans. This business was called Gabriel Pizza and was named for one of the two original owners. They were asking $32,000 for the business and were not about to take any less. Mike and his father George managed to get financed for $30,000, but were rebuffed by the original owners. Mike and George make an impassioned plea to the bank manager, and he relents and gives them the financing they need. The modern era of Gabriel Pizza is born. And speaking of being born, on the day that Mike closed the deal on Gabriel Pizza, Maliki was delivering their second child, Rola, to the family fold. For Mike, the pressure to succeed has never been greater in his life, and he is working harder than he ever has before. But, despite all his efforts, business does not boom. At this time, Orleans is still very small. No one orders pizza delivery yet. The Gabriel recipes and reputation were not distinctive. It was very tough for Mike to get his fledgling business off the ground, and he attempts various marketing techniques, which have no effect in the small neighborhood. So, late in the year 1977, he completely retools the recipes for the dough, the sauce. He sources out new suppliers for quality ingredients and develops new baking techniques in an effort to make Gabriel Pizza food something that customers will be unable to resist. Results? The pizzas are incredible, but the customers are still rare. Mike has enlisted the help of all of his brothers to help with the workload, but they are still struggling to make ends meet.
Well, when I first started, we used to get the mushroom, pepperoni. We used to all cut it ourselves, even the cheese. I used to prep. Then all of a sudden, I start spreading the dough, and I become a cook.
With a growing family and a struggling business, Mike decides to get honest with his family and himself. He announces to all that it is time to sell Gabriel Pizza. It's now 1979, and Mike lists the business for $40,000 and gets a buyer. But sometimes fate has other plans, and on the day of closing, that buyer could not secure his financing. And in the end, Mike wound up having to keep his struggling restaurant. So, in typical Michael Hanna fashion, he buckled down for the long fight. He innovated, and through some trial and error, managed to pioneer pizza delivery service in Ottawa. He continued to tweak his recipes until they were irresistible. He knew every customer's name and what they liked, and he made them feel special when they arrived. And the customers were, in turn, sad to leave, except that they knew they were going home to eat the best pizza in Ottawa. One day in 1980, when Mike had resigned himself to being a boutique pizza shop owner for the remainder of his days, he noticed heavy equipment being dropped off across the street, and it looked like some serious construction was about to begin. After contacting the municipal authorities, Mike discovered that the city of Ottawa had decided to build an entire neighborhood, and by extension, a city, around his pizza shop. That was the stroke of luck he needed. Finally, thought Mike, this Gabriel Pizza thing might just work out after all. So between Mike's unwavering customer attention, his groundbreaking delivery system, the retooled and delicious recipes, and the city deciding that Orleans needs to be much bigger, the business started to really take off. In the first year of the Orleans expansion, Gabriel business more than doubles, and then it triples. Word gets out that Gabriel Pizza has the best pizza in town and that they will even bring it to you. Mike goes from 1 pizza oven to 3 and now employs the whole family. Each brother of Mike's dedicates his own expertise and attention to Gabriel Pizza full-time, and it pays off handsomely. Things have definitely turned around for the better. As Orleans expanded and the Gabriel brand was really gaining steam, Mike felt the pressure of other operators moving in and replicating his success. But, as luck would have it, opportunity arose with each new street and set of houses built. First, he gets an offer to move into a strip mall in a deal with one of Ottawa's biggest home developers, Minto. He and his brother George partner up, and Eli and Joe go to help. It takes off right away. Business was booming. For the next 10 years, the 2 locations developed an incredible business, and under Mike's client-centered philosophy, a fiercely loyal customer base. Gabriel Pizza was no longer chasing business. Business was now chasing Gabriel Pizza. Life for the Hanna family in the early days was moving along quickly as well. In the span of 15 years, Mike and Malachi welcomed 3 more children to the brood: Andre, Mark, and Christina. The entire extended family spent many memorable moments in these years, including the precious time at the Chimo Avenue house that was purchased for Mike's parents. George Sr. and Shafika especially enjoyed their most content years there, entertaining family and friends by the pool and serving lavish meals on weekends. The family enjoyed the success provided by the Hanna brothers' hard work and ingenuity.
We'd all, that was the house to be at. Again, it was like probably the biggest house out of all the family that anyone had. So all our holidays and, celebrations were held at that house. And it's funny, I still have like real vivid memories of that house, and sometimes I have dreams of it.
Now, let's remember that the food service was not always the only business the family had on its mind. In 1979, Mike's father George spotted a gas bar and convenience store that was for sale across the road from their pizza shop. George wanted it and pushed Mike hard to buy it. Mike relented and made the deal. So, while Mike tended to Gabriel's, his father and a few of his brothers did what they could to make the gas station work. The thing was, between the early morning hours, the cold temperatures, and demanding motorists, the family realized that their specialty was making great food. And within 1 year of its purchase, the gas station experiment was over.
Me and my brother John, and then Eli and Joe used to work at the gas, and my brother me and John working at the store. But me and John, we used to open the store early in the morning, and then I used to go to the pizza like after noon. So they decided to sell it, and they end up selling the store, and we stuck up with the pizza.
With everyone back working together at Gabriel Pizza, the family got back to what they did best. The shops were home to the Hanna family, and you could always find mothers, fathers, brothers, sons, and daughters in the shops having fun. But at the same time, the kids were learning important business lessons while watching their relatives work the successful operation.
My job, I didn't have a particular job, but it was definitely some of the stuff that maybe like a side duty, such as wiping the pizza pans. At the time, everything came in bulk, like the cheese and the pepperoni and what have you. So he'd throw me in the back room and say, "Here, cut the cheese, cut the pepperoni, clean this, do that," and So I'd do it, and at the end of the day, if I got $5 to go buy a bag of chips or a pop, that was a treat for me.
The third Gabriel Pizza was opened in 1983 by Mike's brother Eli. This was located in Orleans on Innis Road. And then Mike and his family were dealt a hard blow. In 1989, the much-loved matriarch of the family, Shafika, passed away. She will always be remembered as the one who gave Mike and his brothers their sense of humor and the ability to connect with people. Business came from Dad. Their humanity came from Mom. The family mourned the loss, and eventually the brothers' attention was directed back to the business. It was now early in the 1990s. Business was booming, and yet Mike was still worried about the future. How can he hold on to the advantage he had worked so hard for? Will he and his brothers be able to keep up the quality, structure, and quantities without compromising growth and opportunity? The year 1995 saw Mike taking on the spot next to the original Gabriel Pizza on St. Joseph Boulevard, turning this new space into a 48-seat restaurant proper. It didn't take long for it to follow in the same fashion, becoming a favorite spot for old and young alike. And of course, this was the spot where Mike was, and that's what brought people in.
His presence. There's this presence about him. It's just like this air, like, people are just attached to him. He's just a pleasant guy to be around, very humble, very honest, and he's just, from a working perspective, he's very charismatic.
Mike became something of a local celebrity, the charming, funny man that came from the old country, worked hard, and was obviously enjoying his life. Matter of fact, you will still see Mike working the pizza ovens and his customers at the St. Joseph's location on Friday nights. Outside of family, working at his restaurant might be his greatest joy. In 1996, the fourth Gabriel Pizza was opened by Mike and George, and eventually their brother Joe becomes a partner. Well, Mike wasn't about to get the time he needed to make long-range plans, as opportunity came knocking again in 1997. His brother Eli found a location and they decided to partner up. A small spot was vacated by a veterinarian on Ogilvie Road, closer to the center of Ottawa and on a busy street. He was given a great deal by the developer to move in, so Mike and Eli quickly signed the papers and acquired the location. And there it was. Gabriel Pizza's fifth takeout and delivery spot was created, and of course it flourished immediately. Not one to be satisfied with past achievements, Mike and Eli next seized the chance to take over the vacated spot next to his Ogilvie Road location and turned it into his second sit-down restaurant. It was a modest 80-seat service, but backed by the company's dedication to quality and customer service, it too became a hit with customers. Now, you would think that the founder had exhausted his innovative ways, but just then a customer asked if Mike would consider serving breakfasts. We know that Mike would consider anything, So he gives it a shot, and in 2 weeks, there are lineups out the door for Gabriel Pizza's breakfasts. Ottawa was growing, and new locations were becoming available. One of the earlier spots for expansion was in the city of Canada, a growing community on the edge of Ottawa's West End. This location was started by a new management trainee and Mike's eldest son, George. George, like his father, had worked his way through the business from dishwasher to order taker, food prep to cook, driver to manager, and was ready for a challenge. George worked hard at the location and in no time made it into another Gabriel Pizza success story. At this time, another chain pizza outlet was closing its operations in Ottawa. Little Caesars had 5 locations it wanted to sell, and Mike negotiated to purchase 4 of them, with one being the ideal spot at Somerset and Bank Streets in downtown Ottawa. But with great success comes great responsibility, and Mike came to realize that it was now time to have Gabriel Pizza give back to the people and the city that has given him so much.
His words were always to help out the community. I used to see it all the time in the restaurant. Anybody that would come by as a customer, they needed help with a hockey team, or they needed help with a fundraiser, or they need gift cards or gifts at the time, gift certificates, or actually even at the time, piece of paper. Here you go, use it. But he was always helping. Never said no to anybody that came by the restaurant that was asking for something. So that always stuck with me, and I liked that about him, and it gave me a sense of pride in him.
Going out to the communities like TD Place and all the hospitals and the 67s and all the little community events that were happening, the fairs and things like that, we would always try to be there to accommodate all our customers because of how much people would always want Gabriel's. So we were trying to never say no to them.
Gabriel's Pizza's donations and assistance to the many health organizations, charities, and children's foundations is testament to the organization's appreciation of what it has been given. The Hanna family joins in many municipal and cultural celebrations, and members of the family sit on various charitable boards in the city. Current President George Hanna continues the company's altruistic efforts, and contributions to Gabriel Pizza's charitable causes are growing along with the corporate footprint. But once again, during a stretch of great business growth came heartbreak. In 1998, while at home in Lebanon, Mike's father passed away after a short illness. It was a reflective time for Mike, and he was comforted knowing that both of his parents did get to see the brothers at their most successful.
I'm lucky in terms of all the cousins, as I'm the oldest. I got to spend and got to know my grandparents, and got to spend some great times with them, and felt their love and felt their dedication to the family.
George, after sharing in the hard work and success of the Canada shop, came back to work with his father at the main location, honing his craft at the executive level. George knew the plan his father had set in place, and he knew where the corporation was headed. The transition of leadership was starting to take form from Mike to George, but the founder was far from finished. Now, it was only natural for the team to want to expand and grow. Problem was, not every new owner had the same dedication to service and quality that the Hanna family did, and it was hard to oversee every location. The question, how do we recapture and replicate that magic that made the original business flourish, is nothing new to fledgling franchise businesses everywhere, and it was a pressing issue for the family. By the turn of the century, franchises were popping up regularly, and the company was developing strategies for helping their owners cope with the complexities of starting an operation. They centralized the food preparation and transportation methods, developed a harmonized call center approach, and refined the franchise inspection methods. Mike, realizing that moving into a new millennium required new leadership, announced that his son George would be transitioning in as president of the company. George would be making decisions on new franchise opportunities, vetting new owners, dealing with quality assurance, and running the corporate offices. His responsibilities would also include overseeing the marketing department and the community involvement operations that include charitable donations and engaging with cultural events. George and Mike also decided that Gabriel Pizza was in need of proper corporate headquarters, and it wasn't long before the family had found a spot near the original restaurant in the Canatech Business Park, and after a quick and easy negotiation, a lease was signed. After 5 years of leasing, the building was purchased. With that, Gabriel Pizza had a permanent home for the planning and marketing ends of the business. The company then searched for and hired some of the capital's best and brightest people in the food industry. Together, they review, modify, and execute the plan that has been set in place so long ago. The corporate office would also become home to the call center, a bustling hub of humans, telephones, and cubicles. On Friday nights, it would field up to 5,000 calls, routing the orders and deliveries to their final destinations. All of Mike's children were now taking their place alongside George to help steer the company forward. Meanwhile, Mike still preferred to spend his time at his favorite spot, the beloved Original Gabriel Pizza on St. Joseph. His fan club knows the best time to catch him, on Friday nights, when he commands the pizza ovens, dealing out the real deal pizza by the original cook. The easy banter with old friends and new customers entertains everyone and gives off the feeling of being at home. You see, to Mike, work is not work, it is life. It is a gift that gives meaning to a person's existence. He is not consumed by technology. He communicates face to face. And like a lot of the older generation, he worries about today's young people, and if they share his old world work ethic required to find success. Well, for one thing, the family knew that Gabriel Pizza was not just a restaurant anymore. It's a major brand, a pillar in the community. So, to start, the young development team at HQ took on the challenge of going from 20 locations to the 39 they have today. They redefined the potential owner evaluation process and location scouting, resulting in better, more responsible locations. The management team has designed a Gabriel Pizza app that can tie you directly to the pizza of your choice. They also populate and maintain social media pages on all of the current platforms, which is a big job on its own. Most recently, the family was looking for a new and fresh way to add to their demographic and came up with an upscale sit-down restaurant they call Crust and Crate. It's a wood-fired eatery that matches a beautiful ambiance with delicious fare.
We just thought, okay, we know pizza best, so maybe we'll stick with that, but let's do a little bit more of a upscale kind of feel. And especially with, being in the Glebe and at Lansdowne, we thought it fit perfectly.
There were 2 locations in Ottawa, one in the exciting TD Place complex, and one at the site of the old Gabriel Pizza on Ogilvie Road.
It's a lot different, sometimes a lot of our Gabriel's regulars will come in just to check out the restaurant, and I always got to let them know, guys, it's not, Gabriel's, it's more of a gourmet thin pizza, and they love it. They love it. It's totally different, but at the same time, they just really complement each other. It's nice.
The future is busy and bright for this focused company with an expansion to the rest of Canada planned. The Hanna brothers' commitment to quality and customer loyalty has made Gabriel Pizza ubiquitous in the national capital area. Numerous pro and amateur sports teams, hospitals, charitable organizations, and cultural associations can attest to their unwavering support and dedication. Mayor's awards, municipal citations, and business acknowledgments attest to Mike Hanna's philanthropic nature. Breathing life into Gabriel Pizza has encompassed 4 generations of the Hanna family. Its success relies on proven methods of quality and service, forged over 40 years of food industry experience. It's a fusion of family, food, and business that has been fine-tuned to endure well into the future.
They put it all. They put their whole life into it. So there's a huge responsibility that comes with that. You don't want to fail. You can't fail. Failing is not even an option.
Its success requires careful tending and in turn gives back a life rich with family, friends, and experiences. Mike Hanna is testament to this.